40. There you go.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Creative Collective, Wealth Forged Creatively, right? Our special guest tonight is Chris Merz. Chris is coming to us from the Pacific Northwest. The great Pacific Northwest is basically my hometown area where I lived for 26 years, raised two kids up there, and Portland, up in the Portland, Oregon area. Chris is, and he's coming tonight with a wealth of knowledge. He's got a extensive investing knowledge, and I think his bread and butter right now that we're going to talk about tonight is hotel conversions, and I'm super excited about this. It's something I've been interested in for a long time. Chris, how's it going, bro? Good to have you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Lance. That's a very gracious intro there. Um, yeah, I am excited to be here and chat about some motel conversions and wherever else the conversation goes.
I love it, bro. Let's start off let's get to know you a little bit. Who are you? Where are you from? Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into real estate investing.
Yeah. So born and raised here in Portland, Oregon. Um, let's see, went off to college, really did the enjoyed skiing and partying more than actually studying. So I ended up getting pulled out of college a couple of years in, coming back, came back to Portland trying to figure out like what I should be doing, bouncing around from job to job. Ended up going into the fire science degree and getting my degree in fire science technology for firefighters, and then got my paramedic degree as well. So volunteering as a firefighter paramedic, working on getting hired at a place. Ended up meeting a billionaire developer. He recommended everybody in their 20s should buy a fourplex. And I made a really big career shift at that point from working on getting hired to a fire service career to then real estate, and working with him, then getting my residential license after working with him, buying a few investments along the way, and then now in that next transitionary phase from realtor to developer and buying motel conversions, which this mentor is doing exactly that.
Wow, that's cool, man. How did you meet this guy?
Uh, he's through my dad, one of my dad's best friends. He's done a lot of investing with him. And it was honestly after my dad and I got off the golf course one day, we were sitting down having a drink, and my dad's best friend walked in with this developer, and they came and sat with us, and so and he was raving about everyone in their 20s buying a fourplex. Gave me his card, and I called him the next day and was like, tell me more. I have no idea what this is. And he brought me on for a 2-week internship, hired me at the end of the 2 weeks. And then 3 months later, I bought a fourplex with
Nice.
$2,500 of my own money. Right. So I
Sweet.
know you guys love, creative finance or coming up with creative ways to do it. So I brought $2,500 to the table. I bought, and he sent me a listing of a $440,000 fourplex in Tigard, Oregon, one of the suburbs of Portland. And it had just been a value add, right, or a flip.
Yeah.
And so like I didn't need to do anything to it. It was perfect. And I needed to raise 100 grand for it, 98 grand for it. And so I went out to my parents and I said, hey, I need to get up to 10 grand to say I'm bringing so much money to the table, and then I'm going to raise some other money from other people. So I brought them a whole plan, of like how I was going to pay them back over so many years and how much interest I was going to give them. So I got the 10 grand from them. And then I got additional money from my grandparents, my mentor, my billionaire mentor, and then also another good family friend, and was able to raise 100 grand and pay them 8% or 6%, or even my grandparents, shoot, I was paying them, I think 4%,
Nice.
over a 10-year amortization schedule. And it worked out really well. I'm 25 years old, living in one unit, renting 3 out, and making $300 a month and paying everyone back,
Love
So,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. While the asset appreciates, right? And that's
Exactly.
That's amazing. And that's a really high appreciating market, right? The whole West Coast, basically. So you really can't go wrong over the long term investing over there. And so that's great, man. I love that. So your very first deal was creative.
Mhm.
I can relate. I have a similar story. I won't tell it, but it was similar, right? Creative deal, off market cash, PML.
Yep.
That's awesome, dude. The house hack too is like a well-known strategy, right? Thanks to Brandon Turner and David Green. You know, those boys
Exactly.
coined the term the Burr method,
Yes.
you know. Uh, and the Burr method's not so hot right now, but it has been in previous years, right? It's been a great method to use. Did you actually end up burring this property or?
Yes, I did. I refinanced it in 2020
Mhm.
and pulled out about 60 grand and then sold it in 2022, just 2 years ago. Or no, last
Nice.
year, 2023. And made all in, I made just shy of 400 grand and I put about 15 grand into it for the 7 years that I had it, you know?
Ooh, damn, that's
So
badass. That's awesome, dude. Sweet, man. So let's get into it, right? What is a hotel conversion? Talk to us a little bit about what the model is.
yeah, yeah. So it's really finding the distressed motels, and really not hotels, because those are going to be like your higher end typically is how I see it, the perspective of like your Marriott's and the higher end, right? But we're looking at the lower end stuff like the Motel Sixes, the extended stays, the um shoot anything that you're like, well, have I heard of that before? It's the ones that you haven't really heard of a whole lot.
Hmm.
uh and typically they're owned by, ma and pa, and they have one, maybe two, maybe three, of these motels, and they're looking to get rid of them. And it's so you can get them for a good deal. And that's, the hardest part is finding the deals, as we all know. And then converting them into apartments. So going through the either change of use with the city or change of zoning. And each municipality is going to be different with that. A property I had in our contract in Reno, Nevada, the city, they've already done a bunch of motel conversions there. And so they already had a PDF. They were like, oh, you're going to do a motel conversion? Okay, here's exactly what you need to do. Right. And they just forwarded it to me. Other ones where you go, they've never seen it before. And so they're trying to figure out how it all works.
Hmm.
And the majority of cities do want it. And it just depends on how badly, right? Like how badly they need housing. And we know, we have a massive shorting massive housing shortage here in
Yeah.
America.
Yeah. Huge
Uh,
need.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and the great part is kind of the magic behind all of this is converting it from a hospitality to a motel,
Hmm.
right? And purely by doing that, your 500 grand of NOI and your 500 grand, it increases 500 grand of NOI for a multifamily. It increases the value $5 million, right? Just by doing that, not doing anything else. So
Hmm.
that's part of the magic behind why this works so well.
I was sort of explaining this to Lance earlier. You're playing cap rate arbitrage essentially,
Mhm.
right? So with motels, they have a higher cap rate, which means um, a lower purchase price, better cash flow. And then you convert it into a multifamily. So you're buying, let's say, a hotel at 5 or 10% cap rate, and then converting it into multifamily, which national average is about 5.5%, and selling it at a 5.5% average, and therefore the purchase price of a multifamily is higher, and so that's the arbitrage that you're playing there, right?
Hmm.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. They're valued differently, the hotel in the hotel space compared to a multifamily. So yeah, it works out really well because of that. And then you're able to get into these, usually we're shooting to be into them all in cost for anywhere from, gosh, 120 to 150 a door. building these new is going to be like 250 to 300, obviously totally state by state dependent,
Yeah.
but
Right.
building new, and it's going to take way longer, right? It's going to take 2-3 years. We can convert about 100 units within a year.
Dang, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So are you, so when you're looking for the, oh, go ahead, Damon.
Sorry. Hey, can you talk us through a little bit about the zoning aspect, right? So I know that varies from city to city, but take a little more of a deep dive in terms of, taking it from the hotel motel zoning over to what multifamily zoning would look like. And I guess you could just use Portland as an example, right?
Yeah. So typically it's really just a change of use is what we're seeing in the large metropolitan cities. And so it's going through and getting the approvals from the city of, okay, what are the requirements for a motel? And now what are the requirements for the change of use to multifamily? And typically it's going to be emergency services can have a turnaround, right? You got to have sprinkled buildings. You need to have for your kitchens, you need to have, depending on the city, you need to have like a range hood actually going out, or you can actually just use like, it's like $150 and it's a little fan that you put and it plugs into the wall, right? It doesn't have to be close to the kitchen and it just goes out. So everybody's different, but it's a number of items, right? So there's probably, a list of 5 to 20 items that needs to occur on top of the conversion, right? In order for the change of use to be approved.
How long do you see some of that paperwork in terms of like zoning change getting through the city? I know like here, Harris County, probably the more developed permitting office takes much longer than Montgomery County, which is kind of outside of that umbrella. Yeah, I guess if you're looking in terms of a major city, what, like a 3 to 6 month turnaround period on the.
Yeah, I think it depends on the person you're working with. It depends on the county you're working with, right? Like, shoot, you could be working with the same county, but you have one guy that's in a great mood and another guy that's in a terrible mood, and he's going to make your life a living hell,
Yeah.
So
Damon definitely knows about that. He was a contractor for a lot of years.
Yep, exactly. And like, shoot, if you have open walls and this guy's already having a bad day and he's like, oh, actually you've got, this open, your showers are open, right? Well, those need to be, you need to have, what is it? Some layer of separation between the drywall and whatnot, right? So now you're just now you have to rip all those out, which is just total bogus when they hadn't even called that out prior. So it totally depends on who you're working with, and then how much you want to push back as well.
I find building a relationship with those permitting offices and stroking their ego constantly is a huge plus. Yeah.
Totally.
Thanks. Yeah.
And I think working with the right contractors are really important, and building that relationship with the county and the permitting office and all that is important too.
Yeah, totally fair. Thanks.
Yeah, man. I was gonna ask, so when you're buying these hotels, when you're looking for them, are you looking for hotels that have little kitchenettes? Are you adding kitchenettes? Is that a requirement? What, like in your specific, and so you're not in a specific market, you're not buying in your backyard, it sounds like. So like you kind of touched on it, but I'm just curious, like if what you're looking for in these hotels.
Yeah. So here, let me pull up. Typically, yes, and I'll pull up some finished product here and show you guys in a minute. But typically, the majority of the places we're looking at don't have extended stays or kitchenettes, right? Now, the extended stays are great because it's already there, and you can literally start renting that out day one. You don't need to do anything. So the business model, let's get into that a little bit further, right? Of like what the kind of 3 paths for this is working with state or federal agencies to be able to fill these immediately or after conversion.
Mhm.
Second would be nonprofits. And then the third would be taking it to market and renting it, right?
Okay.
So with the first two options, typically they're going to put on master leases, right? Triple net master leases. So you don't have to,
Mm,
much less headache,
yeah, I like that.
right?
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. My mentor, right? He's done, gosh, I don't know, 40, 45 properties. It's 5,200 units right here in the Pacific Northwest of these things. So he's got a large amount of experience under his belt, and that allows my credibility to go from here up to here very quickly, right? And so one of the properties that he bought down in Ashland, if you guys may recall, in 2020, Ashland lost 5% of the city's housing due to fires, forest fires. Absolutely terrible, so terrible. And so it was a federal state of emergency. And so at that time, the feds reached out to my mentor and said, hey, we know that you just bought this 250, 300 unit motel. We need housing. Like, we don't care that you haven't done anything. We need housing. All we need is a fridge and a microwave in each unit, and these were not nice units, they're, and he said, okay, great. And after he converted them, he was going to spend expect to get about $1,300 to $1,500 a unit. And that's putting in about 80 to 90 grand per door, right? He didn't do any of the conversions, and it's required by the feds when it's state of emergency, you get $5,000 a door. So within 18 months, he netted $35 million on that one property.
Whoa. Dang. That's crazy. That's crazy. I remember that. I actually was traveling through Ashland. I think I was getting some slabs or something. I can't remember, granite slabs but you couldn't find a room anywhere, right? The firefighters were taking all the rooms too, through that whole, horrible experience, man. It was crazy. There was ash in Ashland, right? Everywhere. And the whole state. I mean, it was crazy. You couldn't breathe. It was nasty, dude.
Yeah, it was scary.
Yeah, it
How
was
does the
bad.
insurance
Well,
work with that,
but-
with the hotel in Ashland, where is a natural disaster zone? I know, like, I live in California, and State Farm is dropping all multifamily insurance. Was the insurance federally mandated in that case?
Good question. I don't know. I'm assuming so. And I know it's not like Oregon. We don't have a lot of natural disasters. It's not like, Southern California, Texas, Florida, where the insurance companies are saying, hey, we're not going to insure your buildings now. I know in Florida, they're doing that now. So I'm not 100% sure, but I haven't heard of any, seen any news of the insurance companies are paying this out.
I just wanted to chime in and say, though, I know that was a terrible natural disaster, but when you say he made 35 million, that's the point where everybody says there's levels to this game. that was a level up day for sure at 35 million. Yeah.
Right. I mean, they're going to pay it anyway. They're going to pay it to somebody, right? So it was really just right time, right place, you know. And fortunately they had the housing. Like, it's absolutely terrible. And he was able to help out a lot of people. And it's not like they were coming out of pocket. It was the government that was paying it, so it's going to go to somebody.
Yeah. Why not make it a win? Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So do you have to have a hot plate, or do you have to have a kitchen, or is there different counties have different regulations? I've been curious about that, because I've had some guys from New York who were trying to get me to help them raise funds for some hotel conversions for Section 8 type of deals, basically similar to what you're doing. They were working directly with St. Vincent de Paul's, right? Which was housing, I think housing homeless or people who needed shelter. And so I was curious to see what are some of the must-haves? Like, you don't have to have a kitchenette, do you?
Yeah, so it's totally depends on the municipality, just like you're saying. If you want to let me share my screen, I can show you some.
I made you a
these.
co-host, so you
Okay,
should
great.
be able to. Yep.
Here we go. All right. So you guys could probably can you guys see this?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great. So this is looking, we all know what motel units look like, right? This is one where you walk in and the bathroom is on your left-hand side, right? Then you've got the sink on the outside of the bathroom, and then you walk in and you've got your two beds and a TV, that's pretty much it. So this is what the two beds and the TV would be. And these divider walls make it seem like a 1-bedroom, right? So it goes from an efficiency unit to now a 1-bedroom unit. So that was done purposefully. And so these are some of the stage units.
That's
here-
crazy. That little partition wall, that they consider that a separation of space. That's awesome.
Mhm. And so
Nice.
2 hot plates, right?
Mhm. Yep.
And then these are convection microwaves.
Mm.
Yeah. And so, not a whole lot of space. And then
Very clean.
the floor to ceiling tiles, right, in these. So people walk into them and they're like, wow, I can actually afford to rent this. Here's another style. And these are actually more functional, these divider walls, right? Because you can actually set things on these.
Mm-hmm. 2 baby mini fridges. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
No dishwashers, right? And then these are some of the outside of buildings. Really try to add artwork and bring in some of the culture to the from the area and then people embrace it more. They're excited about it.
So funny enough, this is something that I've been involved in. I've been doing some construction, not on hotels, but I've been taking and converting houses, right? And everybody's really big on this pad split. I say kind of in air quotes, this co-living model, right? This is similar, other than you guys are putting the kitchenettes, right? You're kind of taking this space and you're converting it into usable either studio or 1-bedroom, 1-bath. And I've been taking these, like kind of large, what I call like Winchester Castle type houses, and I've been breaking them up into 8 or 10 rooms. But the difference that I'm doing on these is I'm cutting pad split out of it. I don't want to pay them, and I've started got a property management company, and we've just been adding that bathroom / small kitchenette like you guys are doing. But the one thing that I didn't think of is that small wall. I mean, that's a huge. If I would have thought about that, right, I can actually convert what is a studio to a physical 1-bedroom, 1-bath. I mean, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah,
they're really good looking builds too.
Yeah, very good looking. Yeah, very well done. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting though that you guys are taking. So let me ask you. Normally in those hotel models, you've got offices and some other stuff. I'm assuming you guys are taking those offices, converting those off into rooms as well, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of dead space in motels, right? For like storage, for utility closets, for what else?
Meeting rooms.
A lot of the times, like they have massive banquet rooms, and so sometimes it makes more sense to convert, those. You do have to pull the sewer and plumbing to those rooms, right? So there's additional cost to that, or it just makes more sense to use that as an amenity for the building. So, the larger the building, the more amenities it makes sense to have. So having a movie theater room, having a workout facility, having a pool, having, all this additional stuff for tenants to use. And then sometimes in these buildings, like there's a restaurant, that there's a lease already in place. There's a you know, like a breakfast place, or there's a we like to have in the right as people walk in, have like a cafe, like a coffee spot that then in the evening can be converted to a little bar for people to hang out at. So
Well,
you know, just trying to like bring some community to the buildings themselves.
I mean, that brings up a great great question, right? And I'm sure you and your mentor, you know, he's probably a master of doing this. But I find that some of these motels slash hotels, much like here in Houston, you know, kind of the East Houston areas are really growing in terms of this, right? There are some of these older, dilapidated, you know, buildings, hotels that are out there. And what I find is they're in bad areas. I would say like they're borderline C, D, right? It's an upcoming area, definitely going to move to a C level. But what you guys are doing, I mean, those are easily, I mean, they're borderline B, A class, right? I mean,
Yeah, they are now.
Yeah.
But they didn't start that way.
So I'm wondering how that works for you guys if you're putting them into these areas. Is that, I mean, I'm assuming that's raising really the whole, I mean, that's taking that area from a C class to a B class or an A class rental space, right?
Yeah, so there's this other firm, Sage, out of Kirkland, Washington, right next to Seattle. I just went up and met with them. They're another big group that's doing these motel conversions, and I went and saw some of their products, right? And they're doing really nice conversions, not as high level, right? So they're not spending as much money, which hey, the model still works, you know. Spending probably about 35,000 a door, something like that, and they bought 6 motels on one street, and this one street had like 90% of the criminal activity in Tacoma, right?
Oh, damn.
Large metropolitan city. And like they used to call the street like Homicide Row, no joke. You know, when there was a police call, like they would send 3 police officers to every one, just one phone call because they were worried, you know.
Oh my goodness.
And they've now literally turned that entire street completely over because all of those people were pushed out, and all of these buildings have been, and they're still working on it. But I mean, he said when they kicked some first, the God, who is it? The FBI got involved, right, to get some of these people out, and literally came and busted 10 different units at one of the first buildings they converted. And there was there was literally a shootout.
Holy
right?
shit. That's
No
crazy.
joke. Then
Wow.
when they were converting, like started the demo, some like old tenants came by and there was a shootout with their construction workers and the old tenants. Like,
What the hell?
insane.
Holy crap. Damn.
right? Things that you only hear about in movies, right? Or on TV or
Yeah.
something. But yeah, like real shit going down.
Damn. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
That's
and
insanity.
but hey, it's good for the community ultimately, right? And it brings, and someone's going to do it eventually, you know. And so yeah, it works out really well.
Well, can I ask you, I mean, as a follow-up on that, are you finding that the local governments are subsidizing into these projects as well? I mean, I had understood that Houston was doing some of that locally, where they're, you know, pumping money, you know, into the developer. Yeah, please bring it in, you know, put the security lighting, do all of that, and you're basically handling our crime problem for us.
Yeah, they're giving some credits, tax relief, you know, however they can in certain instances. So yes and no. And it depends on each municipality and how much they roll out the red carpet, right?
Yeah, man, that's amazing. Yeah, I love it. I mean, it's like my construction mind. You know, I owned a pretty large construction company at one point, and it like makes my construction mind run wild because I'm able to go into buildings and I don't need blueprints. I can just see it, you know, and it's so easy. I mean, it's almost too easy.
Yeah, totally. I think the hardest part for people is getting the mind around, doing these larger unit buildings. I think that's the struggle for most investors, right? Institutional investors, that's a different ordeal, right? But doing around 100, 200, 300 units for one building, your typical investors, they struggle with wrapping their head around that, which, shoot, I wish more people would do it. There's enough of it out there.
So, like, and I hate to take over, man, Lance. Anybody, if you have
Hey,
questions,
you're
jump
good,
in.
man.
I've got
No, it's
so
great.
many questions.
It's
But
good.
yeah, can you talk me through? So, like, you find it, this is a go. How does, how do you start to wrap yourself around what it takes to get to the finish line on the deal? Not so much the construction, but the money aspect, right? Like, how are we going to do it? How are we going to bring in the bank? Like, where is the money coming from?
Yeah.
If you could walk a little through it.
Yeah. Okay. So, and I probably should have prefaced at the very beginning here and haven't yet. And I did with Lance, but I haven't prefaced with you guys. So with Reno, I've made it up to a month out from closing. Didn't close on the deal. I haven't closed on one personally yet myself. I know a lot of people in the space that have closed. These are buildings that my mentor's doing, and then I've met with Sage as well. They're asking me to co-GP on some deals with them that I'm currently in the process of working on. So I haven't done a full one from start to finish. So I do just want to make sure I preface that with you guys.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. You know a lot more than anyone else in this room would do about it. So,
well, I'm sure that you've seen enough, right? Being around them. I mean, if you're walking behind Pace or Grant Cardone, you're gonna learn a few things along the way, right? That the rest of us aren't. So I'm wondering, as what maybe rephrase that question with what you've learned thus far from your mentor. How do you see these deals coming together? Obviously, a $1 billion mentor is able to bankroll things that the rest of us can't. But I guess I'm wondering: is there a way, for someone like us to think about doing a deal creatively, right? Like, I mean, is there potential?
Totally, 100%, right? I think the majority of motels, they're owned by honestly Patels. No joke.
yep.
I think it's like 90% of hotel owners are Patels, right? And Indians. And so it's just a massive, and a lot of them are wanting to get out of the asset class. And so it's the same play as what you guys are doing with this creative finance. It's finding the distressed ones that want to get out of it, and taking advantage of that and utilizing creative solutions. And you guys know much more about that than I do,
Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, man, it seems like you could really wrap around a great seller finance deal on something like this, and potentially go for a longer amortization so that you can drive the overall cost and entry and payment lower, and then when you come and you turn it around, I mean, there's a massive payday on the other side of it, right?
Yeah, Sage, who I was just mentioning up in Kirkland, they've got one in Denver right now that the owner did a partial seller finance on it. So they seller financed 500 to 800, thousand of the purchase price. So yeah, I mean, that stuff's always out there, right?
Yeah, I wonder if they like seller finance the portion and then assume the loan on the remainder or something like that. Yeah.
No, I don't believe so. They got a lender that they're bringing in for the other portion.
Yeah. So maybe brought hard money on one side and then, or private money and then.
Yeah, they've got a fund rolling. So they've got an evergreen fund, which is an interesting play, right? So they've got about 1,000 units already, and then another 1,000 units that they have under contract. So the day that you start investing with them in the evergreen fund, you don't have to wait for the project to stabilize, refinance, and get going, right? To start getting your returns. You actually on theirs, the first month you invest, that second month you start to see the returns, which is pretty awesome business model.
Man, Justin, that should start your wheels spinning, man.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing. Oh
Justin's our
boy,
multifamily guy in here, so
sounds
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been interested in the hospitality space, and also the conversion of hospitality to multifamily, and I do think that there is a larger portion of mom and pops that run, these rundown hotels that you can convert, that are looking to retire and maybe save on taxes and be willing to sell or finance these kind of deals. I think it's probably larger than you would find in multifamily.
100%.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find. Let's see. I want to show you guys the kind of the magic behind this, and if I can find this, which probably I won't be able to. Of course not.
While you're looking for that, so
Yeah, keep going.
Damon asked the question, how are you raising money? How are you structuring these things? What's your plan there? Or maybe, what is the Sage group that that you talked about? How do they structure their deals? Are they, are they syndicating? Do they have their own fund? Do they have their own equity that they're pouring
Yeah.
into these deals? What's the story there?
Yeah, so they've got their own evergreen fund. They started with just syndicating. They did like a 120 unit in Arizona. They bought in 2019 and then sold in 21 and made, I think, 8 million on that one deal right after the conversion, and stabilized it. So they did very well on that, and they were like, lights went off, they were like, whoa, this is amazing. We really need to, hop full on into this. And so that's exactly what they did. Right at that point, they were buying smaller multifamily plays, and really trying to figure out where they were headed. And then they said, look, we're going to just really dive head on into 100+ unit motels. They have a handful in the Pacific Northwest, but now they've got, like I said, another 1,000 under contract nationwide in specific markets. And it's the evergreen fund that they've really structured now, and not doing the syndications, which, and the great part for me is they want me to help bring some capital to the table with some of my investors, and then I'll co-GP the deal. So now I'll start to get my investors involved, show them that I know what I'm doing. And now when I bring the next one to the table without Sage, they're more likely to invest with me.
Right. Gotcha.
So that's kind of the step process for me.
Nice.
I've been fortunate to get connected with a lot of people, and I've got a couple different avenues where my partner and we could syndicate the deal. We could go to a family office that's directly reached out to me saying, hey, they're really interested in building this business model. I would take a much lower equity split, and they would be a co-GP on it with me. Right. But they would fund 100% of it because they love the business model. Or the third option would be to go with Sage and work with them on it. So, it's nice to have different options, honestly.
Yeah, very cool.
Man, I'm wondering, Justin, and this is just funny how you meet people, right? But the one in Houston that we were looking at, right? If it might not be a good idea to talk with maybe Chris offline about this one and see. I guess we were looking at a deal here, Chris, and it may be a good idea to look at and get your opinion on, and who knows, maybe network and work with you on it. But yeah, I had thought, we could get that deal done. I've got the construction capabilities here in town to drive that thing home at much lower prices than normal. I've got all the subcontractors. I used to be a full-scale commercial and government contracting company, and so I can get subs at much lower rates than what most people can. And the guys do great work, and they're super fast, right? So I'd like to think I can get through a project like that efficiently on the construction side. And then I had thought, well, I've got a property management company as well, right? So there may be some way for me to, work into that deal where I'm strong. And I guess the question goes to you: is that a good train of thought, right? Like, hey, we can, bring a deal. Maybe Justin's know-how can drive it home, and then I've got, some construction and property management and things like that in place that might be helpful, right?
100%, right?
Yeah.
I think as we all know, finding the deal is the hardest part, right? And I'm in that kind of stage of looking at as many deals as I can and throwing mud to the wall and seeing which one sticks, you know. So writing as many offers as I can and getting one to stick here soon. So I'm always down to look at deals with other people, potentially partner with other people, especially with your guys' experience. Yeah, I'm 100% open to
I
that.
love that, man. I love
Yeah.
that.
Damon's
cool.
a ninja, man. He's a creative ninja. The guy's got so much knowledge. It's crazy. I've heard him pitch stuff that like I've never heard in my life before. Like Pace, he's like a Pace, He's like Pace's cousin is
No.
Justin. Damon.
Let's not go that far, man. Sometimes I'm just winging it and I find my way through, right? We just it's a lot of fail forward, right? So yeah, man. But I love that, right? I think that's what this game is all about at the end of the day. It's about networking and knowing different people and educating yourself on things that you don't know, and vice versa, right? And that's how we all learn and get to a better place than the day that we were before. I'm really big about saying 1% better every day, right? And if you reach that, you've done something pinnacle, right? Like if you can hit that 1% every day, right? But anyway, I digress. So yeah, man, I'll hand it over to you, Lance. Like I've been taking over the whole show here.
No, this is great, Damon.
It's great content. I mean, man, we're here to create content for our viewers, man. So this is amazing. A lot of good stuff. Yeah, dude. So what's your vision for this, like for yourself? I'd like to hear a little bit about that and like maybe some goals that you've maybe set for yourself with this model.
Great question. So in 2022, that would be my 3-year vision. So 2022, beginning of end of 2022, beginning of 2023, wrote out my vision and read Vivid Vision by Cameron Herold and, did exactly that. So I've got a personal one, a business one, each about 6 pages long that I made all fancy in Canva.
Yeah, nice.
And share that with as many people as I can. So, the highlights and the shit that kind of scares the shit out of me, right? Is you don't want something to be logical. You don't, you got to have your BHAG. So many people with their vision, they write down, oh, I'm going to have 3 rental units in 3 years. It's like, well, that's logical. You're going to buy 1 every year. Okay, well, that's logical. That's not a vision.
Yeah,
come on.
100%. Yeah, I love that, man.
I've got 400 units on there by the end of 2025, netting $1 million a year of income, net worth of 25 million, have a podcast, and have built up a large following on social media, and then doing some speaking as well.
Nice, dude. I love that. And I wanted to let everyone know here too that Chris is a member of an exclusive men's club called Go Abundance, right? If anyone here hasn't read A Tribe of Millionaires, you got to go do it, right? That book is crazy. It's crazy. It talks about the beginning of Go Abundance, right? How kind of it was formed and what it's about. It's a really, really good read. Especially on audio. I like the audio version of it, but yeah, Chris, amazing, man.
Well, man,
So
I'm blown away because here I am just sitting here reading the 5 a.m. club. I'm rereading the 5 a.m. club to recenter myself with some things that I feel like I got off track with. And now Chris comes in and just shoots it right to the stars, man. I love that.
Yeah. Right. I love it. Me too. You got to have a big vision. And here's the cool thing is your vision, your goals, right? Your mission should be changing, right? As you hit those goals, as you get that mission dialed in, as you get your vision really dialed in, like Damon talks about a lot, you pivot into the next thing, right? And you keep growing and you keep pushing forward. That's what I love about this group. Pace sub 2, our group here that we have, we're always pushing and striving to do bigger and better. And I think anyone in this room is probably in the top 10% at least, of people in this country who are doing way more than most people would ever do in their life. I've seen a statistic that shows that 90% I think of Americans never read a full book after high school. That's a scary statistic, man.
Well,
Like,
it is, but
holy
how many
crap.
of us hated reading in school?
I
Me.
hated it. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally hated it.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't make it
And-
fun.
No, because we're forced to do it.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm almost
Yep.
like when we probably all are a little bit of rebels, and push against
Yeah.
the grain. And I didn't like being told what to do. But when I get to choose what I get to read, I will do it all day long. you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so true, dude. So true. Especially like when you hit a book at a certain time in your path, maybe you read this book 5-6 years ago, but then you decide to pick it up again and it hits you right at the right time. Whoa. It's like life changing, right? There are gold nuggets that you pick out of it and you go, this book just changed the trajectory of my entire life. It's crazy. It really is the power,
No, I mean, like I was saying, right? Like going back and rereading the 5 a.m. Club. Well,
Yep.
I've read that before, but I generally read it at least once or twice a year just to recenter, right? Because as we all like to pivot, I move away, I work too much, and I'm like, God, man, I got to get back to waking up at 4:30. I got to get on my workouts. I've got to get in tune with the 2020 focus and realign how I'm thinking about my day, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's pivotal every time I read it, right?
100%. I heard Brandon Turner say the other day, he said it a couple times now, a book collection is like a wine collection. And you're supposed to pick up a certain book at a certain time in your life. It don't feel like, oh, I haven't gotten to that book yet. It's like you'll get to it when you're supposed to, and it's supposed to hit you at that right time, just like you were saying, Lance.
Yep.
You'll pick it up and you'll take that perfect nugget from it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just finished Jim Quick's Limitless book. Wow. That book was really, really good. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend. Pace basically bought a copy for the entire Sub 2 community who wanted one. It was pretty cool, man. So we actually got 2 copies. So if anyone wants it, I'll send my wife's copy to you. No, mine's full of notes and folded pages. And I literally took like 3 months to read this book because it was so packed full of knowledge and information. When I realized I was like ADD, right? I just realized last year reading another book, I was like, holy shit, this makes so much sense now. And then, but Jim Quick teaches you how to learn and teaches you how to read. Like, right? We're not taught properly in school at all. And so we're taught to memorize things. Jim Quick's book, like he teaches you how to learn. Like that's a total mindset shift, huge shift for me. Speed reading and all these different things, learning how to kind of just scan through. Like it's just been a game changer for me. But
Michael Baker asked, what is the name of that club? It is the 5 a.m. Club. That is the name of the book, Michael. Yeah, just just to break you away. Yeah, I don't know. I think you're so right, Chris. Like I have, I've read books that didn't really hit me, at the time, but then at that right time I needed, and it just lit light bulbs and fireworks and everything went off. And yeah, I find what's really cool, and I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I'm really big about, I say I'm an alpha, right? I like to surround myself with other alphas. I like to say I'm in the men's club, right? Like I jiu-jitsu, I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and I surround myself though, not because I'm tough, right? But I'm a big believer that iron sharpens iron. And I surround myself with other men that are doing better than I am or striving, right, to constantly do better. And I find like just coming into rooms like this and hearing about Limitless and hearing about the other books, and I mean, my mind's going off like, oh man, I gotta get those books into my mental Rolodex so that I can get on Chris's level and get on Lance's level, you know.
Yeah, man. Seriously. I like, so I'd like to just kind of talk a little bit about something that like Hal Elrod talks, right? His Miracle Morning. And then you've got all these, really successful high level individuals talking about starting your day early, basically what you're kind of talking about, Damon. Before most of America is even awake, you've already got so much accomplished that you're way ahead of the rest of the world, literally, especially the country. So we've been, and I'm not great at getting up super early, but I have a morning routine. So when you have a morning routine, like, you're setting yourself up for success because you're already stacking all these wins, right? Make my bed, I stretch, I read water. I don't read water, I drink water, and then I read for 20 minutes, and then I journal, right? Like, and then I work
Sure.
out 5 days a week now, like, right? So that's like my morning routine. So when I hit the phones, when I hit my computer, I'm like already got all these wins that I've stacked up for the morning, right? And then it starts your day off so much better that way. For
Yeah.
me personally, I mean, I'm ready to charge the hill at that
I mean,
point.
like I think of a bit, and this is why I like the 5 a.m. club, because it breaks it into not like, hey, I have to wake up at 5 a.m. Like maybe Chris's lifestyle doesn't, 5 a.m. is not doable, but waking up at 8, before he gets to work at 10, or but I think the big thing about the 5 a.m. club is mindset, emotional set, health set, spiritual set. If I can focus on those four things, right, and dedicate, whatever that looks like for me, right, 30 minutes to my mindset, 30 minutes to my emotional, 45 minutes to my health set, and I think that it creates intention, right? So like if I wake up in my day and I'm focusing with intention, I'm getting more done, right? And so I don't know how you, Chris, how do you feel about it, right? Like
Yeah,
I like to
no,
be intentional.
I completely agree. I like to wake up early. I like to, anywhere from 5:30 to 6 is usually when I'm up. And get in exactly what you guys are talking about. I do my journaling, I drink some water, I stretch, I get in a small workout before my son wakes up. And I do my gratitude and then my to-dos for the day,
I love that.
Um,
Does anybody
gratitude's been really
else?
big for me, honestly,
Yeah, I agree.
because I feel
Does
like
it?
we always
Well, I mean,
focus.
that's yeah.
I feel like we always focus on the gap rather than the gain. And another amazing book,
Yep.
the gap and the gain.
Yeah.
But gratitude centers you and makes you realize how fortunate you are in your life with what you currently have and how far you've made it, right? Like 5 years ago, I was dreaming to be in this position, but now I'm like, fuck, I haven't even closed on a place yet. Like, let's go, Chris, right? But like 5 years ago, I'd be like, dude, I was pending on a 65 unit, motel last year. Like, whoa, that's amazing, right?
That's huge, man. Yeah,
So
that's huge.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
does anybody else find being intentional going into your day, but are you intentional at all at the end of your day? Like I am so tired and beat up by the end of my day. I don't know how anybody else feels, but I like to try to spend that last 20 or 30 minutes of the day prepping for tomorrow.
That's smart. I
So
struggle.
tough, man.
I struggle with it
It's
all
so
the
tough.
time.
Yeah, it's so tough.
Yeah.
It sets
That's
you
a
up.
tough one.
It sets you up so well if you set out your like workout clothes for the next morning. Gosh, just that little thing,
I'm gonna do
honestly,
that.
right? And I'm gonna read every night, no matter what, before I go to bed. But like just setting your workout clothes out, it just makes it that much easier.
Well, man,
Good
I
idea.
think what's cool, right, is when you get to sit down and talk with somebody, you figure out what you're trying to do. But I think the really cool thing is that, and what other people should take into this, it's, well, yeah, you were pinning on this 65 unit deal, but it's how you go about your life, how you go about your day, how when nobody else is watching, when the 65 deals, room deal is not pending,
Mhm.
what are you doing to replicate getting back to that place, right? It's hard, guys.
Yep.
Yeah. Nobody ever
Yeah.
said this was easy, right?
You have to be driven. You have to, yeah, it's not, it can't come from the outside world. It has to come from within, man. That's the thing most people don't get. They're looking for that dopamine hit. And it's like, what Chris just said, having that attitude of gratitude is so important, especially when you're in those down slopes, right? When you're in the valleys, man, right? Because this business, being an entrepreneur, it's all about peaks and valleys. It's not a matter of if, it's when. When is the next, valley coming? When is the next, the peaks will come, but the valleys are where you really got to dig deep and have that attitude of gratitude. Thomas Fanner, actually, Chris, you know Thomas, right? We talked about Thomas. You went through his coaching program. Thomas taught me basically to have that. He's like, dude, make a 30-second video and watch it 2-3 times a day, especially when you're having down and out days. Just the things that you're grateful for in your life. It'll keep you centered. It'll keep your head from overthinking, over wandering and going, oh man, oh shit, this fell apart, that fell apart, and I think it was an amazing piece of advice. And so I love that. I love that you have that. It's so important, man.
Well, man, I don't think,
Mm-hmm.
let me ask this out loud, man. Could we, me, Lance, and Chris have brought any more value today? All right. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Meditation.
Amazing,
Yeah,
man.
meditation is great. I agree. I love doing meditation. If I wake up with anxiety, sometimes I do, boom, we hit that meditation for 10-15 minutes, man. Just enough to clear my mind, breathe, and then I'll talk with my business partner, which is my wife. We'll talk through things and go, oh, okay, we're actually doing really fucking good, right? There's just a few things that are like freaking us out. So, I mean, when you can talk through things, get that meditation, man, clear your brain, so huge.
Well,
I feel like
meditation
that's a place
and
where I struggle the most.
breathing, like breath work, like
Yeah.
shit. I love meditation, love
Mhm.
doing that. Even like
Yeah.
in the middle of the day, like pause at noon and say, hey, because you've been on your computer, you've been on the phone, like I'm gonna pause for
Yeah.
15 minutes and like do a little meditation or do breath work. Dude, I've been
Yep.
doing breath work recently.
Mm,
Oh my goodness, it is
really?
life changing.
Mm.
Like sometimes I'll get home and I'll have like throbbing headaches, right? I'm
Mm.
like, God, how do I
Mhm.
fix this? Take some Advil, doesn't work. And finally, the other night, I was like, I'm just gonna try breath work. I don't know why I thought of it, and did the God, who's the guy known for
Wim
like
Hof.
Wim Hof? Yes, exactly. I
Yeah,
did the
he's a
Wim
beast.
Hof, and it's like a
Yep.
12-minute thing on YouTube. I
Uh-huh.
literally had the worst headache, and after 12 minutes, it was completely gone.
Wow. That's
Amazing.
It was
sick.
insane. I was
Yeah.
mind blown. It's like,
Yeah.
what have I been doing? Let's go.
You
Like,
do breath work and then get a cold plunge.
I was just gonna say,
That's
isn't
what
Wim Hof the guy that started the whole cold plunge thing? I think he is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They said he
I
does
do a
it.
cold shower for like 3 or 4 minutes every morning. It's not
He
like,
does it like out in the wilderness, the
yeah,
real
that guy's
style.
a psycho. I know,
He
dude.
dives under ice.
It's like Russian, right? In Russia or something like that.
Gets his axe and chips out an ice block out of the pond and just soaks in there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy.
But they have said like what's pretty amazing about that is like I guess they've studied him in some way, and his body is literally doesn't function like the rest of us. Like he almost never gets sick. Like his metabolism functions differently. There's just things that people are saying like we don't know why it works, but it works.
Mm,
Right?
yeah.
So yeah, maybe there's some of that too, right? We just do things because like we don't know why they work, but hey, it works for that other guy and it'll work for me. Let's try it, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gabe Hamill actually got me into the ice cold showers, and it sucks sometimes, man. But
Oh yeah.
but dude, it's, you don't even have to cold plunge after that ice cold shower. It's so invigorating. It's good. It's anti-inflammatory, right? Like the cold, like, loosens up your muscles, and it just gets like you. I don't know what it is, but like I feel like kind of dizzy sometimes, right? It gets you your head gets in a whole different space, man. I don't know what it is, but it's wild. If you haven't done it, you guys got to try it.
We used to do them after MMA like hard spar days, man. And you're
Mhm.
just beat up, and man, we'd get in there, and it just like reinvigorates your whole center of everything, man.
Right.
It's pretty amazing.
It is. It
It
really
is
is.
hard getting in though. You got to pump yourself up to get in.
I bet. I can't imagine jumping into a bucket of ice, and water. I haven't done that yet. I will, but I haven't done it yet. I've jumped into rivers in Oregon. Okay, it's basically Chris knows, like some of those rivers are freaking ice plunge, dude.
They're
They are
cold.
freezing, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Rogan talks
Freezing.
about, I mean, like Joe Rogan, he talks about it's like he keeps his at like 34 or something, like just above freezing. And
Wow.
he'll get in there for like 10 minutes or 15 minutes, man. I'm like,
Whoa.
he's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah. Anyways, man, I digress. Maybe we should see if anybody wants, in respecting Chris's time, man, maybe we
Yes.
should see if anybody wants to ask questions and
Yeah,
bring it
Chris,
to
you
the
got time
table.
for a few questions if anyone has any?
Totally. Of course.
We typically do this a little earlier, but we kind of got on this cool topic of mindset and
Yeah. All good.
very motivational. Thanks, Michael. I appreciate you, bro. Anyone have any questions that you want to hop on and ask Chris about anything?
Everybody's an expert in the motel buying space now.
While people are, if anyone wants to think of something, I'll mention something that nobody really talks about in this space, and we kind of touched on it, but it's not something that's really discussed. It's like the lows, right? And you kind of hit it, but like the lows suck, like for the end of the summer, the beginning of fall of last year, I've got, this 65 unit under contract, and I'm telling everybody, going to raise capital, letting everybody know I finally did it. I've been working on this forever, and we didn't close, due to high interest rates, due to construction costs being high, short-term and long-term debt. Right. And then also the deal was tight, and then signing on $10 million of a personal guaranteed loan, right? So that's a little scary too.
Yeah.
And we terminated, and like, dude, the last 3 months of 2023, I was down, man. I was like struggling. I was not in my best, and it's the truth. It's like, it took me and some time to rebound from that. And I think as we get further along in our career, like the rebounds are shorter, but that was like, I was at the high of my high, and then I went really low, and I think as my career continues to progress, those time periods will shorten significantly. But yeah, it sucked.
I'd be interested to see, like, have you ever talked to your mentor about that, and like asking him, like what do lows look like, for you, and like in the beginning of your career, right? When he, maybe was like just starting, and now here you are, the billionaire. Like, what do lows look like there?
Right.
And I think most people would say, oh, well, lows for a billionaire, right? Like, how low could they really be? And I'm like, right, more money,
the same shit. It's literally just with more zeros. That's all it is.
Right.
No joke. It's rather than hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands where you're struggling on figuring out how you're going to do it. Now it's millions or hundreds of millions where you're figuring out how you're going to do this shit. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's still, you still have that, but people don't, you're like, oh, you're lucky to be you, and it depends on how much risk you're taking. Right. And so I think some people, as they continue to progress in their career, they start to take less risk. Other people, they don't, they continue to take the same amount of risk. And so, I think it totally depends on that. And a lot of builders and developers, they ride the highs of the economy and they ride the lows of the economy, and then they claim bankruptcy every low, right? All of a sudden they're flying planes and jets, and they're flying their own private jets, and then a couple months later, they claim bankruptcy and they've got no money. So
Hey, where'd you get that Ford Pinto?
Yeah.
Right, you're right.
That was the
Yeah.
first car I learned to drive in, a Ford Pinto wagon my mom had, dude.
Oh my
With a
goodness.
stick shift, right? 4-speed. Oh man.
That's
So funny,
awesome.
man.
Yeah, sweet. Chris, thank you so much, man. It's been awesome. I think it's kind of new for a lot of people here, so they're not really sure what to ask probably.
Yeah, all good.
But this is going to go to our YouTube channel. And yeah, if you guys want to like and subscribe, Justin, can you drop that in there, man? I don't know if you have it available.
While we're at it, hey Chris, man, where can people get in touch with you at? Would you
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
put any of your
Probably
stuff in the chat?
the easiest way to get a hold of me is going to be through Instagram, I would say, and you can find me on there. Chris Merz, that's MERZRE, so real estate on the end of it.
Awesome. And I guess Lance, right? Like,
Yeah.
as we always preface that, right? Like, guys, go like, subscribe, follow us on all of our channels: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all the interwebs. I don't even know where we're at, all the places anymore.
Yeah. Yeah,
Looks like
man, it's
Michael
been
Baker
good.
has a question.
Yeah.
Michael,
Yeah,
okay,
question.
one question. Go ahead,
One
Mike.
question. Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's kind of new, so I don't really have any detailed questions, but without adding another shiny object to my life, I'm curious, you know, if we wanted to get into this kind of business, what kind of route would we really need to take in order to do so? Um, would that be like finding a deal that fits your buy box and helping, bringing that to you kind of scenario, or what? Give us kind of a tidbit on how you would approach that, because it's very I'll turn my video too. It's very a little nebulous to me as to how you kind of get going down that path.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you're interested, then yeah, reach out and we can chat offline about this. And it's not rocket science, right? It's the same thing as buying a fourplex, and it's just figuring out how to do the value add part of it.
I see.
And it's just more zeros,
Mhm.
If you've ever done a fourplex flip, this is the exact same thing. It's just with more zeros, right?
And we like
Uh,
zeros.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Mhm.
So,
and
and
that's
it's just,
always me. I'm always looking for stuff with bigger zeros to do, even though certainly there's more of the single family stuff, which helps with cash flow, but bigger zeros are really something I want to personally head into, multifamily and bigger deals like this. So
yeah, and I think the thing that really attracted me to it was, okay, you can buy the single families, and I'm not hating on the single family game by any means, right? For those of you that are investing in single family, but you buy one and shoot, you get $300 to $500 worth of cash flow that you
if
net
you're
a month.
lucky.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah.
ideally it's $100 of cash flow, right, per unit. And
Yeah.
so the more units you can get, then you get to that passive income that you want. Now it always increases as you get that, but it allows you to get to that number much faster.
Right.
So,
Right. Okay.
and then it just comes down to finding the deal and then finding the capital. And if you have the right deal, you will find the capital.
Mike,
Okay.
I'd like to just add something in there. Christian Osgood is a guest that we had on before. He is an amazing YouTube revolving around multifamily and really about seller finance. That's the avenue, generally the avenue he goes out after. And so I would check out some of his stuff. And then the underwriting is one of the most important things to learn in both multifamily and hospitality. And in this case, it's both, right? So probably looking into learning to underwrite would be a good way to start. And just learning some of the terminology. But yeah, I would say
I
go
think
check out.
I got a pretty good handle on all that. I'm not in
Yeah.
no way a beginner by any stretch.
Sure.
I extensive vocabulary. I can underwrite, certainly single family. I can underwrite multifamily.
Yeah, there you go.
And I'm very detail oriented. So if I need to dig into bank statements and stuff, I may not be as fast as a seasoned CPA, but I'll get there just fine and find the warts, generally speaking. So I think I'm fairly competent in that regard.
Yeah. Well,
But
then you're well on your way there,
Good.
man.
Yeah. That's a
the
good
biggest
strength
thing
to
to
have.
me is fundraising, and that's always something that's I think for everybody struggles with
I
when they're
can tell
really
you,
trying to start out.
I don't.
you know, and for what it's worth, you know, I might be able to help you there because in terms of my general contracting company, again, it was a fairly sizable contracting company. And I think this is a little, probably a little under the wire way, right? But, and I don't know if Chris, you might agree with this, but I find being in rooms with developers, right? And the cities, all of our major cities, they hold developer meetings, right? And anybody can go to those. And I love to go to those, and I love to go in there and talk with those developers and find out what they're doing, where they're at, what they're working on, and literally just build a relationship with some of the I would say more well-known developers slash general contractors in that city, right? And I'm not talking the guys that are doing $3 million businesses. I'm talking the guys that are probably doing, you know, $10 million and above, right? These are really the only guys that I want to be talking to. And they're going to know where those local, city, state, and federal contracts are going. And that's probably your best road, right? Because they're the developers. I mean, that's what I was thinking off the top of my head, because as I got out of my general contracting company, I kind of stepped out of some of those crowds. And funny enough, now I find myself stepping back in to that.
Yeah, in the real estate
Rub
world,
elbows, as it may be, right?
that makes perfect sense to me.
Mhm.
I had a small construction company at one point, and definitely had a lot more connections inside the real estate world back then than I do now.
Mhm.
So I that is a great tip. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Chris,
Damon, I'll
what's your
piggyback on that as well. What I'm doing right now to get connected with more people, like, yeah, I know a lot of people. I've been in the real estate community here locally for 10 years, but I'm always networking. I love doing this stuff. And so what am I doing right now to get connected with more people? I'm honestly going out and calling developers that I haven't met, and I'm having my videographer meet us out there, and we're walking the projects, and then I'm pushing out on my social media platforms all of
Love
these
that.
snippets that I'm learning, and then posting the long form on YouTube as well. So if you go to
Nice.
my Instagram, you'll see all the short form, and now people are seeing me interacting with developers every day, right?
Nice.
On
That's
top of that,
sweet.
I
then
love that. And you're providing free marketing for those guys.
yep. And then on top of that, I'm inviting people to my meetup. I'm inviting those developers then to my meetup to come have me interview them on stage. Right. So it's kind of a double whammy, and then creating that relationship. And typically there's a lunch involved in that as well. So I hang out with these people 3 times, learning, getting to know each other. And now, shoot, we're like golf buddies. We're like, let's go hang out more, And so
Beautiful.
it's constantly working on building those relationships with people, which is what this business is all about.
Hey, Chris,
Yep.
I hope you don't mind, but I might try to steal some of that from you, man.
Yeah, that's amazing. Smart.
Do it.
Very, very smart.
What was your Instagram?
Chris Merz RE. Here, I'll put it in there.
Yeah, and I think, again, right, and I think the main premise of that is you're getting creative, right? You're getting creative to get in front of the people that are the decision makers in that space, right?
Yeah, totally. Yep.
Yeah. Very, very cool, man.
Love it. Love it.
Thank you.
Did that help, Mike?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Awesome, man. I love
Yeah,
that.
just little tidbits sometimes are great. Just like, wow, okay, I never thought of that one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. The third party.
Light the spark in your brain, and then, it just handles the rest.
Now you got 1,274 followers. All right.
Right on.
Pete. All right, guys. Well, hey, I wanted to just kind of let everyone know too. We collectively as a team have decided we're going to take a bit of a hiatus from our regular live broadcast that we've been doing. We're all really busy building our businesses. This has helped a lot of us, most of us kind of grow our businesses. We're going to start down the road, maybe in a few months, we'll start doing like a recording, a monthly recording, possibly. We're not 100% sure yet. I just want to let everybody who's on here know. I'll
Yeah,
make a post.
just to like bounce off that, man. Like, look,
Yeah.
guys, we are in no way stepping away as a group. We just need a little room to breathe, right? We've been
Right.
doing this going on, gosh, a year, almost 2 years now, right?
Almost a year and a half. Yeah.
Year and a half, yeah. So, yeah, man, we've been doing a podcast every week. It's a grind, trying to bring people on, and so what we want is to step back, breathe a little, assess how we're doing it, and so we can bring maybe something better coming back, right? So I think what we want to do it under is less stress and bring a better product. And so what we're thinking about is like one podcast a month, right? And really
Like
trying
a recorded.
to like really trying to go after guests that are like doing bigger things. We want guests that are going to bring tons and tons of value, right? So anyways, that being said,
the Facebook page is still going to be going to the YouTube channel. Nothing's going anywhere. We're just like, like Damon said, it's just kind of
just a breather. It's a breather.
So I'm gonna actually I'm gonna start my own thing here soon too. I just wanted to also let anyone here on here know that I plan on doing my own podcast and own YouTube channel and all that too. So these guys have graciously agreed to allow me to use our platform that we've built over the last year and a half to promote and to keep the dream alive, right? To keep going. So
nothing gracious about it, man. Like Lance, myself, Justin, and Juan all equally have pumped into this to grow it over time, and I'm proud of what we've done.
Yeah,
and like we're not stopping, man. We're gonna keep going, but like any of us, right? We need a little room to breathe so that we can bring something better back to everybody, man. But anyways, that being said, man, I guess I'll one last time lead us out. Like Chris, man, I appreciate you. I truly do. Anybody that knows my story, as always, right? I was a veteran for 16 years, and I was injured in my last tour in Iraq, and I ended up a homeless vet for 4.5 years, and I pulled myself up through the bootstraps. I didn't take handouts from anybody. And I grew myself to a place that I never would have imagined in 100 lifetimes. I've been so blessed and so lucky. And the only reason that I did that was because I had people like Chris that were willing to pour knowledge into me and time, right? Because time is the most valuable thing in the world that we have. We can't get it back. So I am so thankful, Chris, of your time. And I am so thankful of everybody's time that has come to check us out, man, over the last year and a half. Please stay with us. We're just in a little regrouping phase, man. And we're going to keep growing. So no worries. I appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thanks, Damon. Chris, thanks, brother. It was great, guys. Everyone, have a good night.
All right. Bye, guys.